Alright everyone, hello. My name is Judson from Blocks 71, the group head of marketing. Welcome to the pre-launch of Marketing Mixology. And let me explain what this whole thing is about. So I joined Block 71 for, this is my 5th month or I think 6th month. And I've been talking to a lot of founders. And one of the gaps that I realized in the founders blueprint is actually marketing. So a lot of founders, they would think about the ideas and then the product and then they design the product, and then when they're about to go to market, they'll be like, oh shoot, what do I do with marketing? How do I sell? So as a marketer myself, I think one of the very first things that I want to do is to actually share how the various facets of marketing, because marketing is such a very big spectrum. And so together with my team, I designed Marketing Mixology, which is a quarterly marketing workshop by Block 71 Group for founders. Of course, we invite VCs because we know founders always want to talk to VCs, and also UOB banks, our partner today. And so today is a pre-launch of Marketing Mixology, and the focus is GTM, go to market. And because after I talked to so many founders, right, I crystallized two different topics. One is marketing in general, the other one is GTM. But what exactly is GTM? Because as a marketer, I always look at marketing strategy, which is part of GTM. So the way I look at GTM is very different from how a VC will look at GTM or how a founder will look at GTM. That's why today I have two founders, Brian and Thibault. Am I pronouncing correctly your name? Thibault, yeah, right, correct. And a VC from Mansi from Monks Hill. And I do have a series of questions, and I purposely will keep this panel discussion light because I would encourage everyone here to ask questions. So a little bit admin here. The left hand side, the left QR code is our LinkedIn page. Please scan and follow. The right hand side is the Q&A, it's a Slido. Whatever questions you have, we will pick the relevant questions for all the founders and the VC here to answer. Alright, so first round of introduction, I'll pass the mic to Brian first.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian and I'm the co-founder of a company called OmniHR. We are an HR tech company, 3 years old, headquartered in Singapore. We basically build an all-in-one HR solution for medium-sized companies. So companies like endowers, moving societies, mothership, they use us to basically manage anything from onboarding to offboarding, including payroll, performance, and workers.
Hello. Sorry about that. Hi everyone, my name is Mansi. I'm an investor at Monks Hill. We're a predominantly pre-Series A and Series A fund investing in Southeast Asia tech and tech-enabled startups. We're sector agnostic. And we are also present across the region. So we have offices in Singapore, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Come say hi after the panel. Would love to get to know everyone here.
Hi everyone, my name is Thibault. I'm the co-founder of Glorious, a company in the senior care space. So we're a B2B SaaS, building a care operations platform to basically digitize the home care agencies in nursing homes, from scheduling, matching, care planning, and providing feedback to the families. 5 months old, so still a baby compared to a miniature, and yeah, very exciting. I was doing fractional marketing before. Like I said, that's why I'm here. So it's an interesting shift from the brain of a pure marketer to the brain of a founder.
Okay, so we have the next slide. Okay, so first question would be, okay, so let's start from the beginning for Thibault and for Brian as well. Yeah. So for Glorious and for Omni, well, let's start with Glorious first. Let's go to the beginning. Do you still remember the very first moment when you thought that yes, your product idea could work? And tell us how that idea generated and how do you convince yourself that yes, I'm going to put my whole life into this idea.
What a dramatic way to. Am I gonna have to do this my whole life?
You saw the questions.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. So first, we were still very early, which means that we don't really know if it's going to work. Right? We think it will, but it's not like we have evidence. I mean, the product market fit is basically the evidence you're looking for. And once you have it, you know it's going to work somehow, right? We're pre-product market fit, so we don't really know. But then when, to your point, there was, I knew I wanted to build something, and I had healthcare, sustainability or education. So in terms of the founder market fit, right? I knew that healthcare and elder care was something that I could spend, let's say, 10 years of my life, which still goes, but yeah, very passionate about that. I wake up with that in mind, I go to bed with that in mind. So there's just the desire, and it's not just a passion, like passion in school and stuff, and every founder is going to tell you it's a nightmare. So it's not just, yeah, I like it. It's the desire to go deep into a problem. It's not the passion to do something that's pure and beautiful. It's the desire and the grit to go down deep, very, very deep. And so I knew I had that. And then if you look at the numbers, so aging population, we all know that. But when you look at the numbers, it's just, the number of old people. The world is aging super fast. No country has planned it.
A little bit louder.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. So the world is aging. It's aging fast. No country has planned anything for it. So every country is like, oh my God, we're old. It's not like we're getting old. We are old, and the whole system, the whole healthcare infrastructure, is not adapted. So there's a whole range of it's a domino effect. Because once you have old people, like we see in Singapore, the caregivers usually themselves, they can be old. So you have someone who's 80, and the caregiver can be 65. So we have like two seniors, two generations of seniors. So the caregivers themselves might need support as well. So this type of problem shows that it's the scale of the problem is huge. It's a massive problem. One example, we've heard someone saying he had a data science officer role at Singapore Airlines. He had to quit his job to take care of his parents, just to reduce his cost and find the time. So there's a direct impact between the problem and like a GDP of a country, for instance. Right? So it's a growing problem. It's a painful problem. It's a massive problem. So when you think about that, it's like, well, there's not a lot of problems that have this type of scale. Right? So when you combine those two, the sort of emotional and personal connections to the problem, to the numbers side of things, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So sometimes people, I can do that for 10 years, but the problem will be gone in 3 years, like COVID, right? So combining those two is the moment where I say, okay, good.
Thank you so much. I will speak loudly. So what Glorious is solving is a very real problem that will expand from today onwards. And thanks for the volume. And so you're in a very different space as to what Omni HR is in. So Brian, tell me, the very first moment that you think that you thought that yes, your business idea could work, because there are a lot of competitors out there. So what convinced you to again, like you want to put your life on it?
So I guess maybe I'll start off by sharing a bit about my background before I became a founder. I was actually an investor doing a lot of SaaS investment back then, and Series B, Series C, I look at a lot of HR tech solution. So that's how I get to know about the industry, know about some of the pain points that people are facing. I guess personally, I also know that I will become a founder at some point. I always see myself with a product mindset. I think that I wanted to build something to add value. So for me, the timing, the question has always been, when is the right timing for me to start a company? So that inflection point actually happened during COVID. So I was like, maybe it's the right time for me that I should probably start looking to build a company. So I left my job, and in 2021 I started Omni, and before I decided that Omni is the right idea, or in HR tech, given it's so competitive, why this is the right idea for me. I look at this from, I guess because of my investor background, I look at it from a very, I guess a theoretical way to look at, is this an opportunity that is worth pursuing, and what exactly am I, what exactly is the TAM, what exactly is the problems that I'm trying to solve for. I think, how I look at this is that, building software, building SaaS in Asia is very hard. But at the same time, a lot of the SaaS companies, the categories, do not need to be localized. So if you look at the biggest ones like the CRM accounting systems, you can easily apply a US system and use it in Asia and Southeast Asia, and that works perfectly fine. Whereas in something like HR, because every country has their own labor laws, has their own employment laws, it requires so much localization that we believe that being a local player, there is a much bigger advantage than the global ones, and eventually the winners will be the local players instead of the US ones. So that's the first thesis that we believe in. Second thing is that when it comes to SaaS, a lot of the ideas, a lot of the areas are nice to have, and there's not really a budget to spend in Asia. But when it comes to HR, every company with a medium-sized cost, they need to have this, for audit reasons, for ISO certification, for different reasons, they need to have the system. So there's a proven budget to spend as well. And then essentially, in terms of the competition, there are obviously a lot of companies out there, but is there actually a USP proposition that is not really addressed by the existing market yet? So when we realize is that the local payroll systems are already simple, basic, not really supporting a medium-sized companies. So a medium-sized companies, a lot of them have to use another separate systems for employee management and the local payroll system for payroll. And these systems are disconnected. So we thought actually there's an angle that's pinpoint that is not yet addressed by the existing incumbents. And when I talk to, obviously they've done a lot of interviews for the sake of validating the ideas. And we realized that actually there is indeed a pain point that people are complaining and they are looking for a better system out there. So I think these are probably the drivers that make me feel like this is the right idea. And what we are trying to build is also not, the end goal where we want to get to is also not just HR system. We think of it as very holistically along the employee life cycle. So any touch points along the employee, we believe that in the future, 5 years from now, it can all be centralized and digitized in a single system. So anything starting from the employee, joining, assigning them, Zoom account, Slack account, Google account, to all the way, your laptop device, your cap table, all of these can be connected in a single system. And by becoming the HR platform, we are essentially building an operating system. That idea itself is a huge opportunity, and we believe that there's a sizable opportunity in Asia. So, with a very investor, theoretical mindset, we can't identify that this is the right market to go to. And then we also talk to a lot of people on the ground to identify that this is actually a pain point. So these are the reasons.
I think you got it figured out. All figured out. So as a marketer, my takeaway from what Brian said was, I specifically, what he said about friction and pain points really resonated to me. And then this is the whole reason why I have a marketing workshop series, because the whole reason why you create a product or have an idea is to remove friction from people's lives. But then how do you convince people that this friction can be removed? And in order for them to buy into your idea, that's very important, which brings me to Mansi. Mangsio has a huge portfolio of startups and companies you look after, over 40 of them. NinjaVan is one of them. And I'm very sure day in, day out, you have a lot of pitches, pitch decks that you receive. So can you tell me, from a product fit perspective, when you look at all these different pitch decks, what is that most important thing that you look for before saying that, yes, I want to meet the founder to understand more?
Well, the easy answer as a Series A fund would be revenue and retention. But I think if you're more nuanced than that, I think honestly it's quite simple. You just have to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first is, how well do I really understand the industry that I'm building in? The second is, do I really have a clear idea of my ICP, who is my customer? And can I understand what their purchasing behaviors are? Can I understand what their pain points are? I think once you can clearly answer those questions, which is somehow harder than it seems, right? Then I think you kind of get to the next question, which is, do I have the right product hook or wedge to enter this market in? And what market am I building for, right? If we talk about Southeast Asia, we're talking about a conglomerate of various different local markets. And so if I'm building for Vietnam first, do I have the right product hook or right wedge for this specific Vietnamese industry, and why is it differentiated, honestly, than what is already available in the market? And then I think the next question really is, do I have the right revenue model to kind of mimic customer behavior? And if you can answer those four questions and you're seeing some traction, I think what we're able to then ascertain is, can we give you this money to help you scale your sales playbook? So do you have, I think it really comes down to this question, which is, do you have a repeatable sales playbook that you can scale customer adoption at an affordable rate? And I think it really is that simple when you outline it this way, but execution is really hard. And so easier said than done, but I think that that's how I would look at it.
So I'll just add on to the question because it's anyway Ethiopian. When you assess a GTM has a lot of different elements like pricing. Marketing is one of them, but it's not the entirety of it. When a company comes to you and proposes a GTM strategy of all the different elements, what would be the top three that you zoom in and assess the quality of this entire GTM strategy?
Yeah, I think, I agree. I think GTM really depends on what kind of product and service or industry that you're operating in, right? But again, if we kind of pare it back, I think the first thing really to show is, do your customers really love your product? And do you have data to support this in some way? So whatever that data is, if it's not revenue, is it something else? And can you show me that people are really excited by what you're trying to sell to them? I think that's one. I think the second is, I do think that having early monetization is important, especially in the kind of market that we're operating in these days. So do customers love your product? Can you show me data? Does that data somehow link back to monetization? And I think the third is really around, I guess, how are you, and it kind of plays on what I was talking about earlier, which is, how are you thinking about distribution or customer acquisition? So can you prove to me that you're acquiring customers cheaper, better, faster, in a more scalable way, therefore your unit economic profitable, right? So you're being able to acquire a customer for less than what they're paying you. I think if you're able to kind of get to that data, or if you're able to show that, I think then there's more clarity around the fact that you've been able to think through product, distribution, ICP, and everything else that we spoke about earlier. And I do think that there's a lot of potential creativity that you can kind of use in your distribution strategy. So I think one example is not actually our portfolio company, but the one that's coming to mind right now is this investment app in Indonesia called Pluang. And what they did was they partnered with Gojek. So they powered Gojek's investment products on the Gojek app. And it was called Go Investasi. I think it's still on the Gojek app, and it's powered by Pluang. And Pluang is an investment platform that allows you to buy digital gold as well as mutual funds and other types of asset classes online. Their wedge product in Indonesia was digital gold, which I think is an asset class that Indonesians were quite comfortable already investing in. They just digitized that process, so that was their wedge. And then their distribution was riding on the back of Gojek's customer base. And that allowed them to acquire customers at scale relatively affordably, right? It was a partnership, and it also helped them build trust. So I think that some of these examples of really understanding your market, really getting a differentiated wedge product, and then figuring out what is that distribution that is scalable and affordable. And I think that there's not enough emphasis being placed on creative distribution strategy. Everyone's kind of funding money on digital channels, but are you using that money effectively? Do you really know, what those metrics are? Can you tell me that you have a clear sort of idea of where this is eventually going to get to you? And if I'm going to give you $1 million, is this going to get you to a certain revenue traction or a certain sort of client count? So yeah, that's how I would, I guess, think about it.
Thank you. Really understanding the market is what a marketer will always be tasked to do. Is the reason why there are marketers. And people like, as a marketer, I have to ask you this next question. You were trained as a product marketer. You are a marketer turned founder. So in your experience, what exactly is the difference between a marketing strategy and a GTM strategy? Like the differences and the similarities.
So I was trained as an engineer, initially, so I became a marketer by choice, but I studied as a developer. So I probably don't have like your MBA marketing kind of approach.
I don't think you need an MBA to be a marketer. I don't have an MBA.
No, but I think it's like George, what you were saying, the creativity. I think it's really important. There's one job in marketing which is to differentiate, right? Because if you're different, then you can lower your CAC in very specific terms. So it's not just about creativity, kind of, woohoo type of thing. It's just you want to be different so that if someone comes across you, they will remember you. And they have to be clear if they like you or not, if they want you or not, maybe not now, maybe later, but they need to remember. Right? So the difference is really important. And if you are trained as a marketer with all the playbooks and stuff, you're going to apply those playbooks, right? So marketers would just learn ads, like up until 2 years ago, that's what we were doing, right? You market, you run ads, and then you look at what sticks, right? It's a very, traditional playbook, right? Which drives the cost up, because everybody's doing it. Whereas if you think, what different, what can I do differently than anybody else, then you can have an edge. Yeah, of course, you need to be creative, you need to invent, you need to find your channel, whatever it is, right? But that's the job, right? So, to your point, honestly, and I worked in startups, in corporates, in scale-ups, in solo business. I'm a founder now. Like marketing versus go-to-market, it's a conversation that only corporate can afford to have. It's a debate that you can only find in corporates. And after 30 minutes, it's going to be like a turf protection kind of discussion. As a founder, I'm like, marketing it's the name of a discipline. Like you have a degree in marketing, you don't have a degree in go-to-market. As a marketer, it's like there's 3 buckets of marketing. You have brand marketing, you have product marketing, you have growth marketing. Right? So brand, what story you want to tell the world to attract investors, hires, and clients. There's a lot that goes into that, but that's the job. So it's more about like storytelling and copywriting and the vision. You need to be inspirational. Then you have product marketing. What does the product do? Like very specific. So it's kind of the opposite. Like very facts-driven, very specific. And then growth is the mechanics, right? So the plumbing, the tools, the processes. You need to pick one metric. You need to grow it. So data, etc. Right? And once you have those 3 buckets, the job of a founder of marketing is to balance the budget, the resources, and that always changes, right? So the go-to-market to me, so marketing, to your point, maybe it's the theoretical view. The go-to-market, it's a movement, it's a motion, right? You go to the market doesn't come to you, so you need to go there, which means you need to have a direction of where you want to go. And then you need to have a way to go about it. You take the train, you walk, you fly, whatever. And then the intensity, right? And so it's really about the motion, right? And not just about the breakdown, right? So the go-to-market is a very intentional thing to decide for a company, because you're taking the resources from the company and you're like, okay, now we need to start walking or running or whatever it is, but it's us making a move, and everybody has to be aligned, because it's in terms of energy management, like in order to make a move, you need to invest energy. If everybody in the company is like moving in slightly different directions, you lose completely the energy. So that's why the direction is really, really important. Right? So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, I never thought of go-to-market as a motion. Even though the word go is there, I always thought that it's a paradigm, and then somehow there are different blocks and then you fit in, and then that's it. But if I would actually summarize, then if go-to-market is a mobilization of the entire company's resources to launch a product in the market, then marketing is actually the creation of demand for your product. And that's why I think what you mentioned a lot about creativity, because I'm not for a lot of advertising. I don't really believe in advertising a lot of comms. Because if a product doesn't work, it doesn't work. No amount of advertising can actually get anybody to like your product. So that's my stance, and I think we are all pretty much aligned. I do have a question over here from an anonymous person for Brian. This anonymous person wants to know, Brian, what was your GTM and how it has transformed over time? I think the keyword is over time. How did your GTM transform?
Yeah, so I guess maybe I would say first of all, like, I think GTM is really different for every company, and there's really like no one size fit all. Along the journey in the last 3 years, we have also learned a lot. When I first started, I know about the term go to market, but how to actually execute it, what's to do about marketing and sales. There's a lot that we figure it out. I think like first of all, one of the mistakes that we realize and we learn is, in the early days, every contract that we sign were too small to build any scalable business. So, if I look back at like maybe 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, we were signing contracts on average a year of maybe around $3,000-4,000 a year. So the struggle that we ran into is, so I think first of all, from a product perspective, our product was still building, and there were like still features that we need before we can sign bigger clients. But with that contract size, we soon realized that, okay, how many deals do I need, in that size in order to hit, $1 million or even more from an ARR perspective? And, how do I even make sense of the economics? Because I'm spending my marketing, my sales resources to approach this. So then we have to think about, how do I solve this? We look at how can I increase the contract value? Is there any new features that we can build? How can I tap into bigger clients? So these are things that we have to deliberately adjust on the product side. So I would say that GTM is not so much on just a function isolated within sales and marketing, but it really requires the resources of the whole company to really align and see what market I'm solving for. I will also just fall back on the USP, like the unique the sales proposition of the product, exactly what are we trying to solve. I think eventually what we realize in our case is that we are trying to sell to companies that are modern, multi-country, and medium-sized. So we call it the 3 M's. So that allows us to really pinpoint to see exactly who are the clients that we want to target, and that allows us to improve a lot in terms of sales conversion, in terms of the language that we use to talk to these people. So that's probably what we have done. The other thing I would say is what we realized over time is that given HR tech is quite a crowded space of companies in this region. So we realize actually referrals becomes a really powerful lead generation tool for us. So we have people who refer us deals. Some of these are existing customers. Some of these are partners who have we met, and then they look at our product. And even with that incentive, they actually from time to time, someone will actually start referring, be like, hey, my friend is looking for this HR system. Omni is pretty cool. Let's give it a try. And then they actually refer us. So that actually, in a space like ours, it actually creates the credibility, and people start talking about it. And then over time, we start being able to create customer stories, and post it on our website. We have testimonials on our front page because we believe that those actually helps a lot with conversion and trying to brand ourselves in a relatively crowded space. The last point I would also mention is, I think my take on marketing is, I think obviously we have sales target to catch, and there are different GTM that we have to craft to solve that. But at the same time, I like to think of what is fundamentally correct on marketing side. A lot of times, marketing is about how to be present to where our customers are at, and how can I keep reminding them of the brand. So what we have then start doing, probably around 18 months ago, is that we write a lot of content, blog articles that are really genuine good content. We use some AI, but most of these are really human-written content with good structure, good substance, and we actually start seeing a lot of SEO traffic coming in, and people start reading content, downloadables, white paper, and all that. That helps a lot with conversion. We have launched an HR community where ours that we really want to give genuine substance to our customers or to other people in the community, and actually start paying off as well because people will come to you and start learning about you guys, and then in a few months when they are actually ready to buy, they will actually remember and they come back to you as well.
Thank you for believing in brand, and thank you for believing in storytelling and content. just a note, this is a pre-launch. Next week is our official launch at InnoFest conference. And I will also be talking about storytelling together with my friend over here, Derek. He's one of the panelists, co-founder of VC, expert in storytelling. So brand is something that is very misunderstood because a lot of people think that it's a cost center. Within marketing, so many people prioritize performance marketing. But then if you ignore brand altogether, if you ignore content altogether, I don't think you'll be that close to exiting or success, but however you define it if you ignore brand. So on brand, there is a question for Mansi. If you look at GTM by just optimizing CAC in a short-term basis, how does one look at the long-term value from efforts like branding for a startup?
I mean, I think you spoke to the power of branding, and I think that at the end of the day, storytelling is a really big part of what a venture capital believes in. Because at the end of the day, we have to buy into the vision that you're trying to build, and the best way to do that is by creating a story that hopefully your customers believe in, but we believe in too. And what that story is can be very much dependent on the industry, the business model, etc. But your brand has to really relate to that story. And I don't think necessarily of branding and marketing in the same sort of bubble, right? I do think that it might be within your line items, grouped maybe under sales and marketing spend. But I don't think that you should necessarily group them under the same cost center, as you said. I do think that branding really does a lot to help you bridge trust deficits when you're a startup. So I think that when you're a new business, I think one of the biggest sort of hurdles that you have to overcome is, can you get people to really trust in your product that you will deliver, especially when it comes to fintech, right? Because at the end of the day, these companies are asking you for either your deposits or potentially lending money to you, or maybe your payments are flowing through them. Whatever it is, I think that the trust deficit in certain industries is pretty large, and for new companies, it's tough to bridge. And so a lot of the times, I think branding goes a really long way in bridging that. And many ways in which you can do it is through content, through partnerships, through spokespeople. I think that emerging markets is a low trust society in general, which is why you see a lot of celebrities as the sort of faces of brands, old and new. And I think that this has really honestly continues to work time and time again. We see a bunch of D2C brands across Asia Pacific decide to spend more money than maybe would be ideal, maybe to have a celebrity endorser. And that does a lot to bridge the trust in the everyday minds and hearts of your customer. So I think trust deficit is one thing, I think storytelling is another, and I think aligning your brand to a mission is probably the third thing that I think is important from a branding perspective, which is what is the mission of your company, and can your brand do the right job in storytelling what that mission is, and can your mission then align you even closer with your customers? And I think that has a positive feedback loop in a lot of ways. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that GTM is a short-term game. I think branding and GTM is actually a long-term game. But the question, or maybe maybe my point in the earlier answers wasn't necessarily, it maybe didn't come across as well, but the idea is that can you still do it in an affordable manner? It's not necessarily that, is this a short-term game? I think all of these various different GTM notions or customer acquisition journeys, it is actually a long iterative cycle. And you will have to kind of poke and prod various different layers, whether that's on the branding side or whether that's on the performance marketing side, to really figure out what's going to work. And ultimately, even if you're a post-Series A company, it's very often that you're still iterating and experimenting. I'm sure Brian can talk to that. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
I learned a new term, trust deficit. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think if I may,
Yeah, sure.
that ruining the agenda, but so branding is super important. I completely agree, and storytelling is very important as well. even internally, if you have an idea and you want people to rally around your idea, you need to have like a way to, maybe it could be one sentence, but to have like a storytelling angle to convince people. So, but I think in terms of branding, the one thing that people miss usually is, and in marketing you always got brand versus performance. It's not versus. It's like if you do brand as well, that's an investment. It's going to lower your cost of ad, right? So it's not one or the other. It's a choice as a marketing or as a founder to invest in branding or not. But if you don't, that has an impact on your CAC. And the power of storytelling is that that's just the way the human brain works. So something that's packaged as a story we remember, right? If you just a number of figures, we just forget, right? You take the same figures, you tell a story, we're gonna remember, right? And once we have the story, we understand, right? So we remember, right? We understand. And once we make sense out of something, then we can tell our friends because there's a story. So once you have a story, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, it's really, really hard. And I think from a filmmaking perspective or like book writing perspective, everybody knows it's a lot of work, right? Branding is a lot of work, but once you have this work and you sort of package your story, your company story, into something that people can remember, can understand, and can tell their friends, you have something that's really powerful and that's really long term. And as the last thing, I think that's super interesting in branding and stories. Once you have a story, you can't change it. I mean, you can't change it every morning, right? So once it really helps. It's like a North Star. It's not a metric, but it's a North Star because you have a story, it makes sense to everybody, to your employees, to investors. You can't just pivot one morning and say, okay, we're going to change the story completely, right? So it acts as an anchor, things you don't do, things you do, like your way to see the world. So there's multiple layers into branding and storytelling.
So, one of the things that Mansi mentioned was trust deficit. I didn't think of that term before, but I kind of know what it means. One of the ways that you know that you have overcome trust deficit is by reference, like what Brian mentioned. Word of mouth is something that marketers cannot crack. No matter, you cannot crack using money, you cannot crack. Yeah, you can't crack using money. You can only crack it by iteration and kick-ass product. And so then sorry for the language, but we are in the pub. The day you have a lot of referrals will be the day you know that you have overcome the trust deficit. And brand, one of the ways other than referrals is for founders to please go onto LinkedIn and tell your own story. Because your brand story is also your own story as well. It's free. You just need to dedicate 1 hour and write a post for 1 week. As in once per week. Actually, Thibaut, you write, I don't know how many times you write daily, right? For your own founder story.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like journaling.
It's like journaling, but actually what it does is that you don't overly sell your company at all. You don't sell the product at all. You sell your story. You make people want to know you and then trust you and then buy from you. So this is how you overcome trust deficit on a free way on LinkedIn. So before, and there's one more thing about trust. I just have to mention because of my friend over here from UOB. UOB 6 years ago, there was an ad from private banking. It was three different ads on national broadcast TV, and each ad was 1 minute long. One of those ads was this new newspaper boy giving out newspapers, and then there was this old lady at the front porch, and then they developed a friendship. And then one day the old lady didn't show up taking a newspaper, and then the young boy was concerned, and then blah blah blah. The point is not about the story. The point is how they structured the story. Until 6 years later, I can still remember that ad. That is the point of brand and storytelling. And I do hope that the founders here and whoever and all the marketers can double down on brand and storytelling, because in the long run it will pay off and you will not. You will need a little bit of performance marketing, but that will be it. So before I pass over to my colleague over in UOB, I just want to open up the floor for questions. Or if you prefer, you can approach the founders later for your one-on-one time with them to understand more about marketing and GTM. Any questions? Raise your hand. or shy, or prefer to do it via Slido?
Oh, come on.
Yeah? Okay, you want one-on-one time with them later? Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Donkey. Thank you, Bob. Pass it over to you.
Thanks, everybody. Shuai here from Partnerships team. Slightly nervous. I see the back of the room super cramped. Would you like to come in front, guys? Yes? Okay, everybody just a step in front, please. Okay, and raise your glasses so I can see your drinks. Yes? No? Okay, nice to meet everybody. I'm Shu Hui once again from the Business Banking Partnerships team, and thank you to the Block 71 team, Lisa, friends, for doing this together with us. So about 1+ year ago, we started on our journey as well. And because we wanted to say, to us was, how can we better engage startups? What does it take to better engage the startup community? So that for us was an important one, and with me today are a number of my colleagues who focus very much in this area. So if I had to give you 4 takeaways from us today, let me prioritize them, okay? So the first is this, call out to our friends from the FinLab. Earlier in the discussion for the last half an hour, I heard quite a number of things regarding go-to-market. What's your product? What's your product proposition? What are your revenue channels? What's your sales and distribution channel? What's your cost structure? Right? So if anything, if you could all take out your phones right now, just take out your phones, guys. Go to Google, type in FinLab Start Smart Program. That's up there. It's a free to use resource that will guide you through. We hope that you will find it useful, and it's really the reason why we developed it, because we were thinking what will help you find out how you can improve your business in your own time, because we know you guys are busy. Okay, so I hope to see some of you all log in today. Find these resources useful, please let us know. So that would be my first takeaway for you. There are a lot of resources in the community, whether it's from us, from the other partners here, that you can make use of. Let me know how your journey is with our online efforts. We hope you find it useful. The second is this. When we looked back last year and we were thinking, how can we better engage startups? It had to be a sincere effort. That to us was important. It's not going to a different market, selling your same old product. That's not sincere. And I'm sure many of the marketers in the room will agree when you see other brands do this. So to us, there was, what's our angle? What do we want to propose? What do the startups need? What do the businesses need? So a couple of points here, and when we develop our product, in fact, we have our head of product deposits here. He's looking away. I'm not going to reveal who. But that's a lot of the effort that's taken to understand what can help the businesses make better use of their cash. Okay, if you're a startup, you're a little bit more cash strapped. Are there certain tools that you can use to reduce expenses? If you're a startup who has raised funds, are there certain tools that you can use to optimize their cash? So that's kind of the thought process, I would say, going into this, because at the end of the day, it's always back to that thing, right? What can we bring to the table that's useful for our audience as well? Okay, so anyone has any questions? We have colleagues around. We hope you bank with us. That's what I have to say today. And the third is this. This is the third main point if I had to have to take away. Is I know for traditionally a lot of the startups face issues requesting for financing from a bank. Raise your hands if you find that. Only one? Yeah? Okay, so we spoke to a lot of the startups. We know that traditionally when they approach a bank to seek financing, it's a little bit of either a black hole or it's something that they find scary, because I have founders come up to me and say, hey, I'm so small, I just barely started. Why would you want to talk to me? Should I even be able to approach you? I don't have 20 mil, I'm not a 15 mil company. Yeah? So that's the thing. It was also the same point last year when we were asking ourselves, is there something that we can do to extend financing to the younger companies? So I'm not here to sell financing here today for everybody, but what I did was to invite one of my colleagues there, Robin, if I can invite you to show your hand. He's very shy. But if you guys have any questions relating to financing, relating to how a bank looks at financing, what are some of the common challenges that for younger companies face? I would suggest, if since he's here today, if you want to speak to him very quickly, take that opportunity. Yeah? So that's my third takeaway for everyone. And the last takeaway, very important. We have quite a bit of alcohol left, everybody. Please help yourself.